Unwrapped. This week I am joined by my co-host Alec Carr, as well as a very special guest that we'll get into very shortly. But before we start the show and the interview that we have planned, we always gotta talk about our sponsors real quick. And because of that, we'll jump to Alec Carr. And Alec, you can take away with our sponsors.
Yeah, guys, I must say it every week. Make sure you're checking out rxhemp.com. If you are in your 30s or 40s and you're trying to work out in your 20s, like I do, you probably want to use this stuff. They have great CBD ointments, lotions, recovery balms, all kinds of different stuff that you can use for all kinds of different things like relaxation. The stuff is absolutely fantastic. So make sure you check out rxhemp.com and use promo code rxhemp-usn to get 10% off your entire order. And then I know Monique's going to be betting this weekend because we got NBA playoffs in full swing. We got a fight card this weekend. We got all kinds of things happening in the world of sports. So make sure you guys get online and to place your bets on mybookie.ag today and use promo code USN100 for a 100% sign up bonus.
Okay, thank you, Alec Carr. And you mentioned this last week, which we haven't done in a while, but we should probably talk about our handles and where we can find all of us. So,
Yeah,
Alec,
exactly.
take that away first, and
So
then I'll join in. Yeah.
you can always find me at Alec Carr MMA. I'm always looking to get into an argument about stupid things. So please make sure you comment on all of my posts because I will reply back and we will have a fun conversation. You can follow Monique at Monique Yip on all socials. And make sure you guys are following Fights Unwrapped. If you're watching the show and you're not following Fights Unwrapped on Twitter, I don't really know what you're doing. And also make sure you go to our YouTube channel on Fights Unwrapped. And make sure you hit that little bell for the reminders of when our live shows are coming up. And make sure you like and subscribe. You can also find announcements at Unwrapped Sports Network. It's a wonderful sports network that is just, it's got a lot of local people on the ground all around the world. So make sure you guys go to Unwrapped Sports Network on Twitter and on YouTube.
Okay, thank you, Alec. And also, you can find us also on Facebook and Instagram besides Twitter and YouTube at Fights USN for Twitter, and then Fights Unwrapped for both Facebook and Instagram. So, like I said last week and at the beginning of this show, we do have a special guest with us. She is one of my dear friends. Her name is Lynn Macmillan. She has both the Canadian descent as well as the Irish descent. So she got a little bit of Conor McGregor in her. So we're gonna interview her. She's a flyweight. She's an aspiring MMA fighter, and I'm gonna put her in right now. Hey, Lynn. How's it going?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Oh my gosh. So this is my co-host, Alec. If you want to introduce yourself, Alec, to Lynn, this is my friend Lynn.
Hi, Lynn. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
And thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy training, getting ready for the trial, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, so I'm going to start off this interview by just introducing yourself, and then if I missed anything, Lynn, just like chime in and go ahead and add whatever you want, like your handles, where to find you, where different places you train, things like that. So Lynn is a flyweight MMA fighter. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And I know you train from like in multiple gyms, including the gym that I train in right now. You do no gi with Kieran Kachuk, who is right. So, and I know you really like that. And also, sometimes you're at the women's only class with me. So I know I see you there. That's how we met. Alec is actually at the women's only BJJ class with Claudia Simpson. So that's also a thing there. And if you want, Lynn, you can tell everybody where to find you. I know you're starting to post more clips of you training and doing competition. So why don't you plug in
Oh, what happened?
We lost him. He's still being attacked.
Hello?
Oh, 1 second, 1 second. Okay, is that better? Guys, sorry, I had a phone call for some reason, so.
Yeah, that's better.
Still a little fuzzy. I'm not sure what's happening.
Okay, 1 second. I think Alex's gonna jump back in. And sometimes this happens every time there's a phone call that happens during the show. I swear, my fucking show starts to crack up a little bit. So I apologize, Lynn, for that. So just bear
all
with
good.
us. Okay, so let me just see. We're just gonna add Alec back in, and then we'll get started with the interview. Let's see here. Alec is back. Good. Alec, say something.
I'm here. Oh.
Okay, Alex, why don't you? Okay, I'm going to exit a little bit because I think it was coming from my end, and then I'll be back in just 1 second. Okay, guys, just 1 second.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Lynn, for bearing with us as we go through these live show technical difficulties.
Well, this kind of makes me feel better about my own, kind of lack of tech skills. I'm glad it's not a me thing. So.
Okay, I'm back. I think this is better now.
Yeah, I think so.
It's good.
Okay, so Lynn, if you wanted to plug in some of your handles, or if you want to tell people where you train, things like that, you can go ahead, and then we'll start with our interview questions right after that.
Okay. Well, the only social media that I actively use is Instagram right now. I mean, I have Facebook. I don't think I've posted on there for about 5 years now. So, so it's just Lynn Macmillan _ all one word on Instagram. That's pretty much it.
Okay, so Alec, do you notice a little bit of fuzziness that's happening?
Yeah, I don't know what that's really about. Hold on.
No worries. Lynn, can you say something for me real quick?
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Oh yeah, it's all better. I think it's just like sometimes the volume is right there. So yeah, thank you, Lynn, again for bearing with us. Alex,
No, it's okay.
I'm the host, and I have a bunch of questions to ask, obviously, my friend here. Why don't you start with one of your questions, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I was wondering, because, not everybody knows a lot about these trials and BJJ trials in general. Can you just tell us a little bit about the process, how hard you've been training, and what the trials actually look like? Because I don't think, we have a lot of casual listeners who are really into watching, the big name fights, but don't really necessarily know a lot of the steps along the way to get those big names took to get to be those big names. So could you take a second and just kind of explain the whole process you're going through?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm by no means a big name whatsoever at all. But what a lot of people don't really stop to think about is how training really is not the most difficult thing about becoming well known. It's not exactly what you know that gets you to any sort of status within the MMA community. It's who you know, unfortunately. And there seems to be kind of some politics to maneuver along the way. You have to have some sort of business sense, which can be difficult. And just finding the opportunities and leagues that are willing to accept. I find for females, especially for smaller females in particular, not every league has openings for smaller females. So I mean, that's really, you can train for years and years and years. You can have a lot of great experience. There are so many great fighters that I know and I've had the pleasure and honor of training with that are not nearly as recognized as they deserve to be.
Oh, 1 second. Let's see what the comments say. Oh, it's just one of the fans. Okay, so let me Lynn, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. It's kind of fuzzy, but
okay. Yeah, just 1 second. I'm gonna add you back in, okay? Just 1 second, okay?
Cool. Yep.
Okay. So, Alec, can you say something real quick?
Yeah, I'm here. I think it might be coming from your end.
Yeah, I don't know why. weird. Let me see here. Say something again.
Yeah. Well, I'm here.
Okay. Why don't I'm gonna remove you for 1 second, and then I'm gonna add you back in. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So it's just me right now. I don't know uh how everything is right now, but I'm going to start adding back in people. Alec.
Yeah.
You know why?
You're still a little fuzzy.
Okay, okay, I'm going to remove myself, and then I'm going to add you back with Lynn, and then you're going to start conducting an interview with more questions.
Yeah,
okay?
got it. All right, Lynn. I think a lot of the feedback is coming from Monique's side of things. So we're just gonna kind of plug on through, and hopefully we can fix this. This is just the nature of doing live shows sometimes. Yeah, I was. You made a lot of really good points, and I think it's really valid for especially women in MMA, that the extra work you guys that women particularly have to put in to becoming a name, or to getting to that next level, getting to one of the known promotions out there. I don't even know if this is really an answerable question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway, if that's all right.
Give it a shot.
Can you just Monique and I take a lot of pride in not being afraid to talk about some of the tough issues. It's something that we're really proud about this stream. So can you, you brought it up. Could you talk about a little bit more about what it's like to be a woman in MMA? Because it is much more difficult than I think a lot of people think. So I've always been interested in learning the perspective of a woman who's currently trying to, has bigger aspirations, and what they kind of go through along the way.
Well, right away, a lot of bruises, a lot of broken bones, because all of our training partners are minimum 40 pounds larger than me. And one of my absolute favorite training partners is even she's 2 weight classes under me. So I think that's part of the reason her and I got to be such good friends at the gym, is because we're just both tiny. We both just kind of constantly kind of go back and forth, like, oh yeah, I got this broken this week, or I got bruised from this or that. While there are a plethora of wonderful patient and restrained male training partners that we all have access to, there are males who don't, and again, it's not always intentional. I think it's important to emphasize that it's not always intentional. It's not always an attitude problem, but they simply don't understand that the size discrepancy, that no matter how technical you are, but I think it matters more so with ground game than stand up. Like I do, or maybe it's just I have more years under my belt of stand up than I do ground game. So with stand up, I'm a little more comfortable now with larger sparring partners, but I am still, I've been at this for about 8 years now, and I'm still kind of nervous to go to the ground, even in just sparring with a male that I don't know, because all it takes is just one little. I've had my ACL and my meniscus torn. I've lost count of the broken fingers and toes. Just I've had a wide variety of injuries just from, trying to stick training out, and because there's not a lot of human beings my size, and that's just the way that it is, and it's hard.
Yeah, Yeah, that's thank you for commenting on that. And then you know, it's a great point that you bring up, and it makes me think of, you know, the Amanda Nunes famously trains with men, and all these other women, and but people don't really understand what that means. So thank you for commenting on that, on how difficult that truly is, because it is. I mean, I as a man, I'm not going to try to understand, but it is a big deal, and that's why I always have. And Monique knows this. Like, Amanda Nunes is in my Mount Rushmore of MMA athletes, just because of what she's been able to do and how she's been able to succeed. That being said, when we do have guests on, I love asking the question of, you know, who are the fighters you look up to? Who do you put on kind of like that Mount Rushmore in that Mount Rushmore atmosphere?
Personally, I don't look up to anybody famous, even the women, with what I do, because I simply I can't relate to them. I've never met them. I don't know how they work behind the scenes. I don't know how they think. But the fighters that I look up to the most are the ones that I've had the pleasure and the honor of training with. My first shout out goes out to one of my great friends, Billiana from Action and Reaction MMA, who is just an incredibly technical jiu-jitsu player. She's amazing. I think she's 2 weight classes underneath me for jiu-jitsu, and she was one of the first women to ever just clean the floor with me, and she did it so quickly and so sufficiently, and I was she was one of the first people that taught me how serious ground game can be. Mariana that teaches at Tanuki Gym, Tanuki Dojo. I can't remember, but she's a brown belt, and she's a smaller female as well. Incredibly technical, also a very gifted boxer. One of my first boxing and Muay Thai partners, Amelia. I first met her at Hard Knocks Boxing downtown. Honestly, yeah, those are honestly my personal favorites, are the women that I've met and that I've kind of, you know, spent time in the trenches with one-on-one. I don't know, I just will always have a much greater and deeper respect for people that I've seen put in the work, because I really don't know what these famous names do off camera, and it's just, I'm not disrespecting them at all. Obviously, they have put in a lot of work to get where they are. I just can't relate to it because I can't see it.
That's a fantastic answer, Lynn. I mean, giving shout outs to all the people that you've personally worked with. I love that answer. That's great. And I guess before I turn it over to Monique, my last question for you is, you know, you train stand-up, you train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What is your favorite discipline to practice? Do you prefer doing stand-up? I know you're still learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but you're going to the trials, so you're obviously very good. What would you prefer? The stand-up game or the ground game?
I prefer well, I have 2 different answers to that question. If I have to pick just one, obviously, like, that would be MMA, because it's my favorite, because I don't have to stop and think, what am I not allowed to do here? Because anytime I compete in just stand up or just ground game, I have a bit of I do things I'm not supposed to do, and it's not because I'm trying to be a piece of crap. I just I panic, and then I do things that I know are going to protect myself because it's a fight, and then I've got disqualified a couple of times for elbows that I'm not supposed to be throwing, and all that. But if I have to pick a singular discipline apart from MMA, my favorite would be Sambo, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
That was like, Sambo was where I first started in grappling, and I think you know, you never forget your first kind of thing. So,
Yeah. Well, that's great. I know Monique's got a couple of questions she wants to ask as well. Hopefully, Monique, I have my fingers and toes crossed that your audio is fixed. So,
Yeah, I know. Guys,
and
it's
toast.
the freaking, like, I don't know why people know I'm doing a show at like 7 o'clock every single Tuesday, and I don't know why they call me. I don't know why they put my phone on like airplane mode or something. It's just like, it's ridiculous. But anyways, sorry, Lynn, about that.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, so obviously I have a bunch of questions for you. I've gotten to know you in a short amount of time, but ever since then you've been an inspiration to me. Like, I've obviously rolled with you a couple of times. You taught me a few things, but what is your favorite submission if you had to choose one? I know it's really hard because
I'm not going to. So because I don't know who's listening today. So in case, just in the off chance that anybody I'm competing against in ADCC on Sunday is listening, I'm just going to say leg locks.
Oh,
Everybody that I train with knows that I have a particular favorite, and some people love me for it, and some people just want to punch me in the face for it, and I would deserve that. But I'm just gonna say leg locks because I'm short. All my training partners have always been substantially taller than me, and their legs are just kind of right at my line of sight. So it just kind of works for me personally.
Yeah, shout outs to also, you mentioned Biliana, who is Kieran Kachuk's wife. So,
Yes.
and yeah, so just a shout out to her because I know she might be watching this, and pretty much like shout outs to Biliana. She's an amazing blue belt. Honestly, she's gonna rise up there real quick, especially with Kieran by her side. But I know Kieran is probably, if he's watching this, he'd probably be so proud of you saying leg locks because he always teaches those leg locks in class. I'm pretty sure, right?
We have so I haven't been at Action and Reaction for very long, but now Fridays they're specifically for leg locks, and just and I didn't even know that before coming to this gym. And he's so perfectly technical about the way that he teaches. Like, he almost teaches as though it's an academic subject, and I love it. Like, he doesn't over explain. He doesn't. Some professors, some teachers, whatever the word that I'm looking for is here. Don't ever get punched in the head, kids. It'll ruin your vocabulary. But they get so excited that they over explain, and then the rest of us, white and blue belts, we're all kind of sitting there with our mouths hanging open, wondering what the fuck just happened, because we couldn't grasp onto a word of what was just said, because there was just so much going on. But Kieran does such a good job of breaking it down to just the very specific motions, and I'm really happy with that. So Fridays are just my favorite for that specific reason.
Yeah, shout outs to Action and Reaction. Obviously, Kieran Kachuk, he does no-gi Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then obviously Fridays for leg locks. So there you go, guys. And also a question for you, Lynn. What inspired you to get into MMA, in the first place? Was it a specific fighter? Did you watch UFC like, the rest of us probably? What would you say? Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, like, I originally started in bodybuilding, and I got to a point where I had plateaued. Like, I was at a point where I didn't want to become any physically larger, because I kind of, I was a little self-conscious about becoming too large and not feminine anymore. So I was kind of looking for something else. And I just kind of happened to be at a friend's house, and UFC was on. I kind of just, the moment I saw it, I just kind of sat there and stared at the TV. And I'm not someone who is capable of sitting still long enough to like watch a movie or a show. So like, that was kind of a first for me. And I just kind of sat there just totally enamored with the human chess game that was MMA. And I think I kind of just fell in love when I saw it for the first time. I thought, like, yeah, like that's for me. Like I want to try that. Was kind of how I got started on that.
Nice. Do you remember like which fighters were on, or you were just kind of like enamored with the whole sport, like seeing it
I
on TV?
have no recollection of who the specific fighters were at that point in time,
Mm-hmm.
but this was like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I could not tell you.
Yeah, no worries. And obviously, it's funny because you mentioned the ADCC trials. I know we talked before doing the stream like weeks ago, and basically, you don't know this, Lynn, but I'm gonna be there in Ottawa, so I'm gonna be working.
Well,
the
I know it
table.
now.
Yeah, so I might be doing the tables, the scorekeeping for your fight. Just saying, just saying.
That's awesome. So,
Right, so I would love to see you in action. And everyone who doesn't know, Lynn is a blue belt, but honestly, she is rising. Her game is phenomenal. She's very unorthodox when it comes to BJJ, which is a really good thing because you just don't know what you're gonna get with Lynn. One of the reasons why I wanted to have her on my show was that reason, because I love me some unorthodox kind of fighters that kind of like put elements in from different I guess disciplines of MMA and into the world of BJJ, and you just never know what you're gonna get with that. And then the last question I have before I let you go, Lynn, and we'll talk about everything after the show is done. What are your aspirations when it comes to MMA? I know we talked about bare knuckle a little bit, but if for everybody who doesn't know like what you're about in terms of where you want to go in terms of a career, where do you see yourself in like 5 to 10 years?
In 5 to 10 years, I would like to be dichotomously in two places. I would like to have at least tried, my heart is in it for professional MMA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really well connected enough, and I haven't been spending the time with the entrepreneurial side of MMA to get to a professional level. I had an offer with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship before the pandemic, which got pulled because no vaccine card, all that, yada, yada, yada. But ultimately my one dream to do with MMA would be bare knuckle MMA. If I have to wear gloves, you know what, I'll deal with it. That's fine. But I would truly prefer to do bare knuckle. It's just, less equipment to fuss with. And I really hate the sensation of the tight hand wraps.
Mm-hmm.
Like now that I've been kind of like working towards and bare knuckle and conditioning my knuckles for bare knuckle, I find it's a lot more comfortable. Like there's just less to fuss with, and I don't know, it just makes me a lot happier. But I'm also working towards building a security company comprised of only employees from MMA or just boxing or jiu-jitsu background. And the purpose of this would be to give athletes jobs where they don't have to go to a regular 9 to 5 and break their bodies and put up with all kinds of nonsense and inflexible 9 to 5 jobs that don't suit their training schedule and aren't supportive of their athletic career, while also providing the city of GTA with low liability security guards for events, for private homes, for all kinds of different things. But that's still in the works. It's and also to provide sponsorships for actively competitive MMA and jiu-jitsu and striking athletes.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I didn't know this before talking to you. So again, you're always full of surprises. I really enjoyed having you on, even though for a short amount of time. Alec, did you want to say anything to Lynn before we let her go? And then we'll just plug in her socials one last time before we move on with the rest of our show.
Yeah, I just want to thank you again. We're so grateful, and I know your schedule is probably packed right now with getting ready for Sunday. That's awesome about the security company you're trying to start. I mean, that's, incredible. A lot of people don't understand what it takes to, train and also try to, live at the same time.
I've hardly slept more than 4 hours for the last 8 months. So if that gives you any kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can. It's nuts. So I really respect you for that, and I'm the self-proclaimed, as I say on the show, the self-proclaimed business expert on the show. So I always love when people are, trying to do something unique and cool. So yeah, just thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully
Thank
we can
you.
have.
Can I just add one more thing? Since you are a big fan of entrepreneurial athletes, I'd like to give it a shout out to one of my other training partners, Lyndon, who now has a store for LA Athletics jiu-jitsu tape. So if you guys, it's la.athletics on Instagram. So if you guys just, we all break our fingers, we all break our toes. So go get yourself some of that tape. Do it.
Yeah,
That's
I love
cool.
it, Lynn. You're always supporting the people around you, which is one of the reasons why I wanted you on our show. So, Alec, did you want to add anything?
I was just gonna say that's great. That's fantastic. We'll definitely give them shout outs in the future as well as with you. And I really hope we can just continue and hopefully we can get you on the show. Sometime after the trials, and you can tell us a little bit about how it went and the whole experience. That would be fantastic.
Sounds dope.
Yeah,
Awesome.
no, Lynn, thank you so much. I mean, you become my friend in a short amount of time and obviously a really great training partner. I honestly thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with us, and I will see you on Sunday for the trials. So good luck to Lynn, everybody.
You so much.
Wish her good luck. And again, just plug in your Instagram one more time for people that want to follow you.
My Instagram is Lynn, LINMACMILLAN _, and that's on, Instagram.
It's all good, man.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. This is great.
No worries. Okay, Lynn, I'll talk to you a little bit later, okay?
Bye, Lynn.
Bye.
Oh my god, dude, this girl inspires the shit out of me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, she is so hardworking. I know her backstory. I know where she wants to go, and I just fully support that, especially with women's MMA. Hopefully on the rise, and hopefully, breaking barriers, as me and Alucard, we like to talk about on our show. But that was Lynn McMillan. If you guys missed that, you can go ahead and rewatch that part of our show. It will be recorded on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and also we have an Instagram account. So I just want to plug in our socials real quick before we enter in and talk about our next topic. So I believe we should talk about Mr. Max Bless Holloway. I mean, come on, guys. Did you see the fight with Arnold Allen? Now, I know Alec Carr has some thoughts on this fight in particular, but also about Max Holloway and kind of where he stands, right? In the division, in the featherweight division. A lot of people are saying, why not move up Max Holloway? And then some people say, you know what, let's do it again with Volk. Some people say Volk can't beat him. Volk can beat him. Max Holloway can't beat Volk. So anyways, Alucard, you kind of brought this up in our chat, so I'm going to relay it to you. And maybe you can add a little bit of context in terms of why we chose this as a headline.
Yeah, so we haven't done a headline, like a true headline, in a while. So I just wanted to bring this up because it is really interesting, Volkanovski, he was at the fight and he was asked about it, and he made the very funny but also true. It was one of those it's funny because it's true moments where he was like, well, I talked to Max and I was just like, you got to stop beating up all the contenders because I need somebody to fight. And I get Max, I get Volk's frustration with that because I'm sure he was really looking forward to a future Arnold Allen fight, but now that's been put on hold again because Max Holloway just continues to prove that him and Alexander Volkanovski might be 1 and 2 of the greatest, the greatest in that division of all time. I don't know about you, Monique, but I'm ready to make that statement that I think Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway are the 1 and 2 featherweights of all time. Which is it's just crazy to think that we have them both in the same division at the same time. So we could talk about the actual Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen fight a little bit later, because I know we're going to review the card. But I just thought it was really interesting. The issue that Max Holloway is in, if he moves up, he's moving up to the lightweight division, Monique. So it's not like, and he's big. Listen, he's taller, he's bigger. He looked even a little thicker than he normally does in fights. That last weekend, that's what I saw at least. So maybe it is on his mind to try to move up. He's tried it in the past. He's tried the lightweight division. I don't think it's a good fit for him. There's a lot of really good, well-rounded fighters in that division, and a lot of, I don't want to use the term because I fucking hate the term weight bully, but there's a lot of guys in the lightweight division that could fight at 170 if they really wanted to. So even though Max Holloway is this huge featherweight, as soon as he steps up, he's going to become a small lightweight, which is really going to hurt him. He has excellent takedown defense. But if he steps up and he starts going up against these, bigger fighters, it's hard to maintain that takedown defense while stepping up. I mean, we've seen it so many times with fighters, especially since the trend keeps going with people stepping up, going down, stepping up. I mean, the prime example of this is Adesanya. Yeah. Adesanya has maybe the best takedown defense in the entire UFC. As soon as he stepped up, it was like light work for Jan to take him down. It was super easy, and that's because Jan could fight at heavyweight. So actually, that's a different topic for a different day. I think Jan should be fighting at heavyweight, but we can cover that when we are going into the next Jan fight. But I want to get your take on this. I thought it was also just a really funny headline to bring up because Volkanovski's right. Like, now he's got no other choice now but to fight Max Holloway for a fourth time. Who else is he going to fight? There's no one else in the division. So it's just really interesting to see where the division goes after the Volk-Yair fight.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Alec Carr. I'm so pumped after that interview, guys. Like, you don't understand. I have so much energy, so I'm so ready to tackle these headlines, especially our next one, which we are gonna be talking about and recapping UFC Kansas City. Anyways, point is that I'm looking at the UFC featherweight rankings, and we have Alexander Volkanovski, obviously, Max Holloway, Yair Rodriguez, and basically the other fighter that I can see, like Max. I don't know if he's faced Yair. I feel like he has. I don't know why. I don't have the Tapology record in front of me right now, but that's the only person that I feel like, that if you can look that up real quick, Alec Carr, just
yeah.
Did he face Yair before?
Yeah, that was that fight after the Cater fight, and Yair put up a good 2 rounds, and then Max Holloway just fucking took over.
Yeah, as he usually does, right? So, man, I think you're right. I think they are the 1 and 2 of the featherweight division, like the best, pretty much. I think Volkanovski, I think he has, I don't know if he has more defenses of the belt than Max Holloway. Maybe they're tied. I feel like that should be a question that we should answer and ask ourselves, when it comes to who is the GOAT of the featherweight division, right? A lot of people would argue Volk because he's beaten Max Holloway, a couple of times right now. And I respect that answer, but I also respect the career of Max Holloway. So for me, You know, it's like Max Holloway had to defend his belt several times against some monsters, people that were going up, like including people like Brian Ortega, who was really hot at one point. A lot of people thought that he would beat Max Holloway, and I was right there in Toronto to see that fight happen. So that was a clinic that Max Holloway put on, and I will never forget that moment. There's just other moments, including the Calvin Kattar fight, which is obviously, not him defending the belt, but that was another beautiful performance by Max Holloway. And Volkanovski has some beautiful performances as well. I just feel like maybe my biased ass is very, invested in the whole Max Holloway story and history when it comes to his fight career. And yes, Fourth Sanchez, thank you for talking about it. He has fought Yair, and my co-host has confirmed it, so thank you. And he also said his fight against Dustin was very impressive, though. His chin held up. Yeah, that's very true. He has quite the chin, and not many people can knock that man down. So
we'll talk about his chin later.
Yeah.
Because that was fucking impressive what he did. And just to answer your question, Volkanovski has 4 title defenses. Holloway's got 3. And don't worry, guys, we're not forgetting about Jose Aldo as far as the division goes. I would never forget. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. So those are your 1, 2, and 3 for the featherweight division for sure. It's just watching Max.
It's so true. It's very true.
It's so true. It's so true. So I think we should move on and start breaking down the card that we just watched so that we can talk about just how impressive Max Holloway was this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Alec. I wanted to move on, but it's just so interesting talking about Max Holloway and like so many aspects, and I'm so glad he's back and he is in contention spot right now. So that is really exciting. But we gotta talk about UFC Kansas City, the recap. I mean, guys, all around, including the prelims, just incredible fights. Just incredible fights. I don't even know where to start. So the first one was the Gomez versus Brazil fight, Brazil, or however you want to pronounce it, Bruna Brazil. We thought that she was going to annihilate Gomez, and quite the opposite happened. So, she got knocked out. And that was something that I didn't predict, that's for sure. And then we have freaking Miss Canada over here, Jillian Robertson, with the textbook armbar. I don't give a shit what Rodriguez said. She definitely tapped. If you guys saw it, she went like this, like that. And it was definitely a tap. No argument with that. She was trying to fight the referee about that. She was trying to argue with Jillian about that. Jillian was like, hey, and she's trying to back out, obviously, because she's not the referee or the judges or whatever, right? So, anyways, that was a really great fight. And then we had Zach Cummings, who I believe retired after his fight against Herman. That was a beautiful KO in round 3. And then, obviously, this was coming, guys. We are huge Brandon Royval fans. That was an incredible knee to the face.
It came out of nowhere, Monique. And can we just, hopefully we can get Brandon Royval on the show. Wink, 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 wink.
Yeah.
But can we just talk about how good his stand-up keeps getting?
Mm-hmm.
My God, he overwhelmed Nicolau. I've watched that. And I don't mean to fan out here, but I've watched that fight 5 times now, Monique.
Yeah.
Just because it was so impressive to see how good he was on his feet. If he keep this up, he's almost, I don't want to say it, but Monique, he's almost unbeatable in that division if he keeps up the progress he's making on his feet. Because who's going to beat him and where? That was just, what an incredible fight that was.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. And then obviously your boy, Bill Algeo, comes out with the beautiful rear naked choke.
Mon-
Holy shit, guys.
Monique, can we just? They both TJ Brown and Algeo looked like they had murder on their mind. That fight, the exchanges they were having was insane. Just like devastating haymaker after devastating haymaker. That fight was crazy. I was not expecting that at all.
I mean, me either, guy. Me either. What a break for both of us.
Ah.
I know, guys, we just talked like so much in the first half an hour. Besides the interview, we just got really excited about the UFC Kansas City card. Now we're moving on to the main card. And obviously, first fight of that was Rafa Garcia versus Clay Guida. Clay Guida pulled the fast one on us because we thought he was going to retire, but he's like, nope, not yet. And DC tried to give him as much interview time as possible. Dana wasn't very happy about that. He's like, why'd you do that? Why are you trying to get more interview time and you're not even retiring? So anyways, that's another story. But Rafa Garcia did what he had to do. He touched.
Well, it's another story, but it's so disrespectful. Yeah. You don't take your gloves off. You just don't do that. Like that. I was already a borderline Clay Guida fan. I just that made me lose a lot of respect for him as a fighter. Like you're literally, dude. You're over 60 fights into your professional career, and you have that kind of disrespect to take the gloves off in the octagon. I could rant about it, Monique, but I'm gonna say I'm not gonna do it. But that was just disrespectful, stupid. Dana White had every right to be pissed off at him.
For sure. Okay, and then obviously one of the biggest fights for me because of how much of a freaking upset it was, Pedro Munoz upsetted freaking Chris Gutierrez. Holy shit, guys. That whole fight went backwards. Like, the complete opposite of what everybody thought was going to happen. Munoz very, very much put the pressure on Gutierrez, couldn't literally do anything, to fight back. It was the most frustrating fight I've ever watched. I don't know about you, Alucard, but that to me was just so frustrated. Yeah.
So I watched that fight again today. I don't know what Gutierrez was doing. He had plenty of opportunity. I mean, every time Pedro would move in, because Gutierrez is the bigger fighter, every time he would move in, he was leaving himself wide open for counters. And every once in a while, Gutierrez would get off that overhand over the jab. And every time he did it, it hurt Munoz. But he just, I think that first round scared the shit out of him. Because that first round was, if Gutierrez didn't get up, that was probably a real 10-8 round. I mean, that was absolutely domination. But I just, he fought so scared the rest of the fight. He was almost afraid to engage. But the one thing I also learned from that fight is just how technically sound Sugar Sean O'Malley is.
Yeah.
Because Sugar Sean O'Malley was countering all that shit before the eye poke, at least. But it was. I'm watching it the first time and watching it live. I was like, oh, this fight's awesome. Look at these guys go. Look at Pedro Munoz take over. Watching it again, I'm a little disappointed in Chris Gutierrez. Just really not living up to the hype. And I don't mean this to be offensive because I know he's the better fighter. I know it.
Yeah.
But it was. I'd like to see them fight again and see what the outcome is. Because I think if they fought again, it would be the fight we thought it would be.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we have to move on to next fight again. Not a lot of people had a lot of faith in the Hulk, but he fucking showed up. Ion Cutelaba knocks out Tanner Boser. Holy shit, was that a great knockout? I mean, yeah.
Why did I change my pick? I sat here last week and picked Cutelaba, and then when I posted my picks, I think it was because I saw Tanner Boser for the first time since he cut all that weight, and I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
If Tanner Boser is looking that good and he's picked up speed, but that was, I was being reactionary and stupid. That like Boser was just overwhelmed by the speed and power that light heavyweights have, and you could tell like he could not get his punches off, and Cutelaba just applied the pressure that he applies and just frankly annihilated Tanner Boser.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, man, knockouts don't get any prettier than that, that's for sure. So that was an amazing performance from the Hulk. I'm hoping he continues on the streak. It's a one fight win streak, but you know what, you got to start somewhere. And speaking of fighters that have to start somewhere, Asmat Murzanikov, sorry, I knew I was gonna butcher that name, really lived up to the hype, against Dustin Jacoby. And I think both of us chose Murzanikov to win, if I'm not mistaken, and he put on quite the clinic, even though it did go to decision. He couldn't, finish Jacoby. Jacoby had his moments too with the striking, but ultimately Murzanikov was dominant. So, Alikar, did you have any thoughts about that fight before?
The one thing I just got to point out about this fight, because I watched this probably 3 times, I think. I think it was the second round. Might have been the first round. Jacoby had Azamat against the fence, and Azamat was landing devastating body knees with his back to the fence, like knees to the body, and it just, like, you could tell he landed like 3 or 4 of them, and you could tell Jacoby was beat after that. Like it was like rapid fire, but like strong knees right to the gut and the gut and lung section, and you could just tell that Jacoby was gassed after that. He really was. The one thing I will worry about for Azamat is his cardio. He was really tired in that third round. So hopefully he works on that, because if he gets his cardio under control, he is a problem for the light heavyweight division.
Hell yeah, that's what we need in that division as well. I love me some fighters from light heavyweight, so I mean, bring it on, guys. But speaking of freaking finishes, let us tell you about Mr. Edson Jr. Barbosa. I mean, holy shit. I love the Brandon Royval knee, but man, that knee against Billy Quarantillo, and I had Edson Barbosa winning just purely because I love him. I know you had Billy Q winning, Alikar, so I want to gather your thoughts first on what the hell happened during that fight.
Just a vintage Edson Barbosa exchange. I mean, like, seriously, that's what it was. Again, another knee that comes out of left field and at the end of a beautiful combination. Like, that was like the Edson Barbosa, 5-7 years ago. That's what those are the kinds of things that he was doing. Do I think it's sustainable for him? Probably not. Billy Q is not the best level of competition, but it was great to see him get a victory. I was kind of hoping he might retire and just be like, you know what? I'm never going to have another fight this good again. I'm just going to retire and call it quits while I have on one of my – because that's like – Edson Barbosa's had a lot of good finishes. That was one of his most beautiful finishes of all time. It was gorgeous.
It was so clean, and I mean, like, obviously his spinning wheel kicks are one of his specialties. So if anybody doesn't know Edson Barbosa, just like YouTube it and you will see some of the greatest knockouts ever. Just
type in Edson Barbosa kick and you'll get a lot of crazy highlights.
Yeah, no, he is probably as hype as I am right now. Like, Edson Barbosa, like, he feels like he made a statement. He feels really good about his position, and especially in this division. And like, he's gonna stay for a little bit. So I mean, if he keeps fighting like this, and I know that the competition's only gonna get fiercer, then kudos to Edson Barbosa. I'm always gonna be cheering in his corner. Now let's talk about the infamous main event here. Okay, we have Arnold Allen versus Max Bless Holloway, and I feel like the fight didn't surprise me as much as many people did, because I'm sure, like, including Alec Carr, were expecting Arnold Allen to kind of implement more of the takedown game. But it didn't surprise me because Max Holloway just knows how to pressure you. Now, he did become more patient, as the fight wore on, and he did do enough to win the rounds. Some people argued that Arnold Allen won 3 rounds instead of Max Holloway. Everybody to each their own watching this fight. But I'm going to go to Alec Carr first because I can sense your frustration with Arnold Allen's performance. And Arnold Allen also knew he lost right after the fight was over. So anyways, go ahead, Alec Carr.
Yeah, this is like a fight. It's very rare where it's not a championship fight where I'm like, immediate run back. Like, run this fight back right away. Max Holloway, he's just, other than Volkanovski, probably the smartest fighter in the division. And he lulled Arnold Allen into his fight. That's what it looked like when I was watching. I was shocked that it took until, I think, the 4th round for Arnold Allen to shoot a takedown. I thought for sure, because Allen is a very well-rounded fighter. He can take you down. He much prefers to stand up, but he can take you down, and he knows what he's doing once he's down there. I would qualify him as a more than good wrestler, but not quite great. So I was just a little shocked by that, especially since Max Holloway, after that first round, was really leaving the takedown open for him. Yeah. So it was there all night, and I just remember watching it going, take it. Shoot the takedown. No, shoot the takedown. Stop throwing. Shoot the takedown. He's throwing a combination he hasn't hit. Shoot the takedown. He's pressuring. Shoot the like all these other times. I gotta say, and you know how much I love Arnold Allen. I have beef with his corner. I feel like they I don't want to get into it too much, but his corner is notoriously great. I'm going to say that first. Like, notoriously, his corner is fantastic. They failed a little bit on doing their job in that fight, I think, because they should have been, hey, man, takedown's there. Let's go for it. Let's go for it. You're not going to stand up with the best boxer in the UFC. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Don't do that. That being said, though, Monique, Arnold Allen, besides Volkanovski and obviously Max Holloway losses. So I'm just talking about recent history, right? Arnold Allen put up the best fight against Max Holloway that I've seen. He looked better than Yair Rodriguez. He looked better than a lot of people that have fought Holloway. A lot better. He was able to land a lot of strong power punches. I don't know. There was that one point where Arnold Allen landed that crazy looping elbow when Max was against the cage, and I don't know how the fight didn't end there. Like he came over the top and down onto his chin, and Holloway didn't even buckle. So I agree with our viewer that commented on it. They need to study his chin. I saw somebody comment on Twitter that I wonder if Max Holloway can take a clean uppercut from Francis Ngannou at this point.
Yeah, I saw that too.
That's like, I mean, the amount of the amount of times he's been hit in the head and the amount of power he's been hit in the head is just, it's insane. It's absolutely insane that he gets, because Arnold Allen was landing some heavy strikes, and he's probably one of the best knockout artists in the entire division. So, anyway, it's interesting. We'll see what happens with this division. We know that Volkanovski is fighting Yair next, and then probably Islam afterwards for the rematch. So the division is kind of on pause, which is frustrating to me because this, as we say all the time, this division is stacked. But at the same time, after Yair, who would Volkanovski fight that he hasn't already fought? So I don't know. That's what makes me argue for, like, just run this back in 3 months. Let's do it again and see if Arnold Allen can break through. What are your thoughts on this, Monique?
Yeah, I mean, am I a little bit frustrated about Arnold Allen and his performance? Like, a little bit, not gonna lie. I thought for sure that he would try for more takedowns, but I mean, Max kind of put the pressure on a little bit early, and just showcase his boxing real nicely. It's not a surprise to me at all, but I definitely thought that Arnold Allen, had some really clean shots that he landed. It's just that Max Holloway is Max Holloway and his chin is freaking impeccable. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why he is what he is today. Max Holloway is one of the greatest, if not the greatest featherweight of all time. Obviously, Jose Aldo was in there, as you mentioned, Alec Carr. And I don't know what's going to happen right now with Arnold Allen. Like, I don't know who he should face because that division is, like you said, stuck. And especially stuck because it's just now back to Max versus Volk, right? Unless one of them decides to move up and then delay that division even further, right? Volk maybe wants to move up eventually to face Islam again. There's always talks about that. But, it is what it is. I love that division. Like, I absolutely love the lighter class divisions, like lightweight and below. No offense to, middleweight, light heavyweight. But and welterweight as well. How can I forget welterweight? But I just think that it is what it is at this point. Alec Carr, we have to live with it, just for a little bit until we see either some people emerge from that division or, some type of shift that's going to happen, whether Volk loses, whether Max wins, whatever, right? So anyways, what did you want to add, Alec Carr?
I just want to end this by saying we have to give Arnold Allen props. The end of that fight in the 5th round is the definition of go all out. I mean, how many times have we watched a fight where they had serious implications for the division and the fighter that's losing just kind of forfeits? Arnold Allen went for it, man. And he, to be fair, he went for it and he was landing. And then Max Holloway, landed with that. I think it was a counter right with a back step, and it almost ended the fight for Arnold Allen. He was definitely saved by the bell. But we got to give him all the props in the world because he laid it out all on the line, tried to finish the fight as best he could. He knew he was down, and he just was like, "I'm going for it. If I get knocked out, I get knocked out." So I just want to give him props. I still think. He's obviously my prediction of him being champion by the end of the year is probably not going to happen now. But I do think that he will be wearing the belt at some point. He's only 20. I think he just turned 29 years old. He's got so much ahead of him. So I don't want this to turn into the whole what happened with Max Holloway after the last Volkanovski fight where everyone was like, oh, Max is washed. No, clearly Max is not washed. Arnold Allen has plenty of time left to get a belt, and I think he will. Don't be surprised, though, if Arnold Allen even thinks about stepping up in the future because he's a giant featherweight as well.
Yeah, no, he's massive, that's for sure. And then shout-outs to, obviously, Max Holloway for coming back and proving everybody that he is not washed whatsoever. He just kind of played a really smart game when it came to this fight. Really smart. Like, he brought it in the first few rounds. Then he sat back and was like, you know what? I can still touch him. I can counter him. He's not a better boxer than me or a better striker than me. So I thought that was really smart. And then shout-outs again to Arnold Allen because I think he had Faraz Zahabi in his corner, if I'm not mistaken. So that was pretty cool because, everyone knows that he's from Canada. So just shout outs to that. Anyways, guys, that is UFC Kansas City. And then we're going to break down the UFC Vegas 71 card real quick right now. So let me just put that on the screen here. Let's see. I do have it here. Beautiful. So, yep, we do have a fight card this week. I mean, it's not a big one, but and you know why it's not a big one? Alucard, they took out the freaking Song Yadong Ricky Simon fight. I am so disappointed. I get it. But holy crap, am I disappointed, because that fight was like my fight of the night, okay? Like, it wasn't the main event. That was my fight of the night, and we gotta wait, I think another week or something before seeing it. So anyways, I digress. I'm not gonna do another rant or anything like that on the show, but let's get started with the welterweight division. We have Jeremiah Wells versus Matt Simmelsberger. And I'm going to go to Alec Carr first. Alec, who do you think is going to win this fight?
It's kind of tough. I mean, Jeremiah Wells is a really good fighter. Hold on, my computer just decided to not work. And then Matthew Schmel, I think it's Schmelsberger is how you say it. I mean, this is one of those fights where it's like it's gonna be an entertaining fight, because both of these fighters always put on entertaining fights. It has very little consequence of who wins. It's not like one of these guys is gonna leapfrog the division after this victory, but it'll be a fun fight. If I had to pick, I think Jeremiah Wells is the more experienced. I don't think. I wouldn't say better, but I think his experience is going to outweigh Matthew's Schmelsberger, however you say it. I'm sorry, I'm butchering the name. But I think his experience will outweigh his, and he'll come out on top. Real quick, Monique, there are a couple of exciting things on the undercard. Some very young, cool prospects. Junior Tafa in the heavyweight division is 26 years old, fighting Muhammad Usman. Francis Marshall fighting the Frenchman William Gomez, who is both of those guys are serious featherweights. So just add one of those guys is going to be fast tracked probably after this. And then you have Norma Dumont fighting and Montel Jackson as well. So make sure, guys. I know the main card isn't that stacked anymore, but the prelims actually are going to be really exciting. A lot of young fighters trying to make their name.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's before we move on, what I have to say is that I am picking Jeremiah Wells to win. I just think he is a little bit more well-rounded of a fighter. I mean, he can pretty much win with any type of method, with the madness. So pretty much he can win by sub. He's had that rear naked choke victory before, right hook to the ground and pound victories, as well as his killer left hook. So, I mean, the fight can go anywhere that he wants, and that's the reason why I pick him to win. Now, the next fight is an interesting one. It's the women's flyweight division. That's Lynn's division, guys, by the way. If you haven't caught that interview, you can watch it back in this show right after it's done airing. Anyways, so we have Yasmin Lucindo versus Brogan Walker. Now, I'm going to start this one off because I know Alec and Dustin always say that I'm like this self-proclaimed WMMA expert of the show, because not only because I'm a woman, but because I just really am so invested in WMMA. So anyways, what I think about this fight, a lot of people have Lucindo winning because she did fight against, I think it was Yasmin. I forgot her last name because I'm gonna butcher it, but basically she's a Latina fighter as well, and she got beat by Yasmin. But really tough fight. I just think that Brogan Walker, a lot of people think she got exposed after losing to Juliana Miller, but I mean, Juliana Miller also lost just recently, so it is what it is. And I think Brogan Walker is a better fighter than her last performance against Juliana Miller. So I think she's going to win this fight. How she's going to win? I mean, she's won by decision before, and she's had some sub victories, including a rear naked choke. So pretty much, if she wants to win standing up, on the ground, I think she probably has a better chance on the ground. That's just my opinion because of the fighter that she's facing. But I definitely think she's going to kind of redeem herself in this fight. I might be wrong. Alikar, what do you think about this fight?
I am going to disagree with you, Monique. I think Yasmin Lucindo has a chip on her shoulder. Her UFC debut didn't go the way she wanted to. She's a young, highly talented striker. Brogan Walker is a very good fighter, but losing to Juliana Miller is I know you said fighters lose all the time, and I agree with that. But like you said, Juliana Miller just got exposed herself. So I have to go with Yasmin. I usually my picks go with the experience, but a 21-year-old young, highly technical striker coming off of a loss in her UFC debut that she was supposed to win. I think she's going to have this crazy chip on her shoulder, and Yasmin has done it in the past. I think we see a knockout. I think we do. I think she's really trying to make a name for herself because she is highly talented and a great prospect.
Yeah, I mean, you could be right. I also think that, there are a lot of fighters that we think come into this fight game that are super young and upcoming, and they end up losing, their first fight in the UFC, right? Or their second fight in the UFC. So, I mean, anything could happen, right? I'm not saying that just because I picked Walker. I just think that we got to consider everything when talking about these fights. So, anyways, moving on to the next fight in this card, we have the men's lightweight division. We got Bobby Green versus Jared Gordon, and I am going to give this one over to Alec Carr first, and I'm going to share my thoughts. So Alec, what do you think about this fight? Who's going to win?
I got Jared Gordon.
Okay.
I think Bobby Green. Listen, I like watching him fight. He's entertaining because he's going to stand up. I get it, and he has this cult following of people that think he's really, really good, and I'm not one of those people. I don't think he's really, really good. I think he's a solid fighter. I think Jared Gordon beats him. I mean, Jared Gordon is technically coming off of a loss, right? It's technically coming off of a loss on a fight. I think everybody agrees that he won against Paddy the Baddy. Jared Gordon is very technically sound. He proved it against Paddy Pimblett that the level of counter striking he was able to do against Paddy was absolutely insane. I think he comes out with a unanimous decision victory at the end of this one.
Yeah, no, I have Jared Gordon winning as well. I think that, he's had a few decision wins. I definitely don't agree with the whole, Paddy the Baddy decision that was made. I definitely think that Jared Gordon has that in the bag, supposedly. Bobby Green, I like him as a fighter. I just think that Jared Gordon has, improved, and that's been really evident when you saw him face against Paddy Pimblett. And so I think he's going to do that again against Bobby Green. I think his fight IQ is a little bit better than Bobby Green's, and we always talk about fight IQ being so important. So I think that he is going to be victorious and probably pull out the decision win. And so we are going to move on to the co-main event, which is a middleweight bout between Brad Tavares and Bruno Silva. I'm going to start this one off because, man, I'm a huge fan of Bruno Silva. So, of course, I'm going to be a little bit biased. But, obviously biases aside, I just think that Bruno Silva is just so talented and so technical, especially with his striking. He does have that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background, as many Brazilians do. And I think that Brad Tavares, I'm not sure if he's going to gas out or anything like that, but I can see Bruno Silva winning on the feet and getting, either a decision win or potentially a TKO victory. Alec Carr, what do you think about this co-main event?
I hate that it's the co-main, Monique.
I know, it's so like, anyways, we
the way I here, I'm gonna put on my conspiracy hat real quick. All right, I'm just gonna put that on. Last we heard, Bruno Silva was on his way out of the UFC. Now he's magically fighting again.
Yeah.
Could this be because the UFC used Bruno Silva to leapfrog Alex Pereira into contention? Are they trying to get him a victory to say, see, look, he's a good fighter?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I really like Bruno Silva. He would be better served leaving the UFC again and going to Bellator or One Championship or PFL. He can't keep up with the top. He can't keep up with this division. The division's too good for him. Which is not saying much because the middleweight division kind of sucks right now. So I like watching Bruno Silva fight. This is not anything against him. I just think he would be better served going to another promotion because I think one would make more money because he would have bigger fights and he would win the bigger fights. Who's going to win? Bruno Silva is better than Brad Tavares, who should not be in the UFC, period. So I think Bruno Silva wins. I think he could win on his feet. I guess that he probably. I think we get another decision here. I don't think we see a knockout. I don't think we see a submission. I think we see a decisive decision victory for Bruno Silva.
Okay, yeah, I definitely agree with that. As I said, I'm a little bit more biased, but I think he edges Brad Tavares out in this fight. So let's talk about this heavyweight main event: Sergey Pavlovich versus Curtis Razor Blades. I'm going to bring this one to Alec Carr's attention first because I have a few thoughts on this fight, but I think that Alec Carr also has a few thoughts on this fight. So I'm going to, give it to him first and ask him, Alec Carr, who do you think is going to win this heavyweight bout?
Sergey Pavlovich. This guy, people don't understand who this guy is, right? I need everyone to go back and watch his fights from before he was in the UFC. There's a lot of people trying to claim that Sergey Pavlovich can't wrestle and that Curtis Blades is going to win because he's just going to wrestle him. You need to go back and watch his fights from before the UFC. He hasn't wrestled in the UFC because he has, let's see. He lost to Alistair Overeem, but hold on. I gotta reload. We got some problems. But we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 first-round victories.
Yeah.
5 first-round victories in the best heavyweight division in the UFC history, probably. Sergey Pavlovich hasn't wrestled in the UFC because he hasn't needed to. Mm-hmm. He's dominated his opponents on his feet because guess what? He can also strike. So I got Sergey Pavlovich. I think he's going to win this fight. I don't think – listen, Curtis Blades is like he's a victim of the time period that he's fighting in. If Curtis Blades fought in the UFC 10 years ago in the heavyweight division, he'd probably be champion right now. to be honest, he probably would be. But the heavyweight division right now is just so good. It's so entertaining. And recently, John Jones teased that he's going to retire after fighting Stipe.
Yeah.
Could that be because one Sergey Pavlovich is coming up through the ranks quickly and is the guy that could absolutely beat John Jones? Sergey Pavlovich has an incredible reach advantage on everybody he fights. He's just Monique. If you were building a heavyweight fighter, right? You would build Sergey Pavlovich.
Yeah.
Good wrestling, great striking, solid BJJ, and sambo background. Like he is the prototype heavyweight of who you would build. He's also not fat. He's in incredible shape, and he's never, Monique, never had a fight go outside the first round. Never. Yeah. He's been fighting since 2014. So let's give this guy the props that are due. I don't want to hear people say he can't wrestle, so Curtis Blaydes is going to win. Sergey Pavlovich is not the better wrestler, but he's good enough to make Curtis Blaydes have to stand up. And when Curtis Blaydes has to stand up, he's going to get knocked out. I don't think we see this go outside the first round. I think we see a first-round knockout because Curtis Blaydes is going to get frustrated when he can't wrestle him and is going to put himself in a bad situation to get one of his whatever he wants to throw because he can knock you out with anything.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree with everything that you said, Alucard. You kind of just took the words right out of my mouth. I think that Sergey Pavlovich is the real deal. I mean, he's so well-rounded. His fight IQ is incredible, as well as being well-rounded with his, wrestling, BJJ, and his striking. And then I also see a KO happening probably towards the end of the first round because Razor Blaydes is, pretty tough. And I think that his takedown defense is going to help him tremendously during this fight. And like you said, when he's forced to stand up, Razor Blaydes not going to know what hit him, literally. And he's going to get knocked out. And he's going to be lights out for him. And it's going to be another KO victory for Sergey Pavlovich. Now, it's funny that you mentioned the not going against the first round because that's technically one of my dog picks. My strongest dog pick is Sergey Pavlovich. So anybody who is a betting fiend that wants to bet, you can bet Sergey Pavlovich. And if you want to be a little bit riskier, you can bet that he's going to KO Razor Blaydes in the first round. So that's definitely my dog pick of the night, as well as quickly my lock bet, which I honestly am cheering for a lot of the underdogs in this fight card. But I think that Jeremiah Wells, who is technically not a lock bet, but pretty much like it's even odds against his opponent as well. So if you want to consider that a lock bet, I'm going to consider that a lock bet in the main card. Jeremiah Wells is my lock bet for UFC Vegas 71. Now, like we mentioned, we are very disappointed that Song Yadong and Ricky Simón are not in this fight card, but they'll be in the fight card coming up in I guess like a little over a week now. And that card is not bad, but it's not great. It has a few fights that are incredible, but what we have to see what the UFC is going to do with that card. It's a UFC Fight Night 223. That's what it's called. Alucard, do you have any closing remarks before we end the show?
Not really. Just say that there's a great middleweight bout on the next card coming up. One of my favorite fighters is Chow. I can never pronounce his name, but the Brazilian who's in the co-main. He is a great fighter. So make sure you guys tune in because we will have a lot to talk about next week. And I just want to thank Lynn again for taking the time because she does have an incredible busy schedule right now, I'm sure, getting ready for Sunday. It's a big deal what she's doing. And I loved her answers to all of our questions today. I can't wait to hopefully have her on the show in the future.
Yeah, no, for sure. We are definitely going to have her on after the trials are over, that's for sure, to recap her experience and kind of what's going on next for her. So thank you, Lynn, for being our special guest and our interviewee of the show. And obviously, thank you, Alucard, for always joining me in Fights Unwrapped. I'm hoping we can get Dustin Hunt back. He is just dealing with a lot of moving right now and getting settled in. So shout outs to Dustin Hunt. Hopefully everything's going well. And thank you everybody for joining. Shout outs to Fort Sanchez for commenting a lot, as well as Facebook's Dada. I believe that's his username. So thank you for joining us, guys, and we will see you all next week. Happy Fight Week, everybody.
Happy Fight Week.